Where do you find God? Almost sounds like a loaded question, doesn't it? I mean, if God was someone you could find, wouldn't everyone be out searching? Well, rather than looking for something elusive, like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I reckon it's more about learning to recognise the way God is already present to us in our everyday lives. I'm Lizzie Oakes, and this is Where Do You Find God? My guest on the podcast today is Bishop Anne van Ghent, who was appointed as the 11th Bishop of Dunedin in March 2025. Bishop Anne was born in South Africa. She has a varied background, having lived in multiple countries, having served in both ministry and education, including having worked as a music therapist. Bishop Anne, welcome to Where Do You Find God?
Thank you. That was a great little summary. I might actually write that down for future use.
Might you? Well, I thought it was a little brief because, you know, I've read about your background and you've led an interesting and diverse life. Fill us in a little bit more.
Yeah, well, as you say, I've moved around a number of different countries, and not all my own choice. I had a very peripatetic father, and then I married someone who enjoyed moving on quite a bit as well. Some amazing experiences for which I'm just so grateful. Amazing people around the world. In my 20s, really formative times in South Africa and in Zambia. More recently, different parts of New Zealand, up in the Northern Territory of Australia, which again was amazing. I've had just so many glorious experiences. I'm very grateful.
You have. One thing I've read of you, that you, when you were in Cape Town or in South Africa, that you actually got to know Desmond Tutu a little.
That's a bit of an exaggeration.
Okay.
I don't quite know where that first came from. I shook his hand and said hello.
Oh, okay. You met him then?
No, a little bit more than that. I was part of Cape Town Cathedral for that year. And we crossed paths quite often, but I doubt very much he would have remembered my name. But what an amazing man.
Yes. That must have been quite a privilege to meet him.
Yes.
That's
it
wonderful.
Sure was. And a bigger privilege, I guess, to be part of what the church was doing that year. What a big part it played in that battle for justice.
How amazing. I'm just thinking, you know, you've been an educator, obviously you're in ministry, you've lived in multiple countries. That must be, I would think, great strength for you as a bishop, meeting all sorts of different people from different walks of life. Does that help you to relate to people well?
I hope it does. Simply because obviously the more people you meet from different backgrounds and the more people you have had a chance to live amongst and get to know, they shape you. And they knock bits of prejudice off you and frequently in my life, I mean, this is, to me, one of the many proofs of God's great sense of humour. Frequently, I will have a kind of set idea about something, and then something happens which just completely destroys that, and almost comically so at times. And it's not necessarily easy at the time, but it's great in retrospect.
That's amazing. Bishop Anne, in Acts chapter 17, verse 27, it says, God intended that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. So my question for you today, Bishop Anne, is where do you find God?
Yeah. Can I start by just saying I love that question, but I would always want to make sure I was holding it in balance with where does God find us? I think because in so many conversations with people, I get the impression that they think, not even consciously, but that God is some distant and fairly judgmental figure, and we're going to have to jump through all these different hoops and somehow placate him and beg our way in.
Mm.
Whereas I think actually the whole Bible, is a story of God trying to find us. You know, there's that line in the Garden of Eden one of the first things God says to Adam is, "Where are you?" Because he's hiding. And I think the whole rest of the Bible is God searching for us in various ways, of course, culminating in Jesus and in coming in person to be with us and reconcile the world to God. So if we're looking for God, it's because God is also looking for us and wanting to be found. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there first.
I love that. It's to me like the ultimate game of hide and seek, but we've got to be willing to be found, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, God's never going to bulldoze his way in. But it's also never a case of God hiding. Much as I love the story of the prodigal son, I think if we focus on that without thinking of the other parables, we can get the subconscious impression that God is sitting rather pathetically on a farm somewhere waiting for us to change our minds and come home. And of course, that's part of the story, but Jesus made sure he told that parable at the same time as he told the lost sheep and the lost coin, where in that case, the coin and the sheep are just sitting there pathetically, and it's the shepherd and the woman who do everything they can to find them. So I think we've always got to hold those in tension.
That's wonderful. So for you personally,
Yeah.
if we boil that, if we take this segment of
where I find.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis wrote very famously many things, but the quote that I hear him quoted most often is that line, "I believe in God as I believe that the sun has risen, not because I see it, but because by it I see everything else." So I find God in the way that the story of Jesus and the promises of God's love actually change the way I see everything else. So I find God in the way I'm gradually getting more used to seeing everything as a gift, as grace.
Everything?
Yeah. Everything that's given isn't an accident. It's actually a gift, grace. To quote another kind of early 20th century writer, late 19th, G.K. Chesterton, in his diary once, he wrote, I probably won't get it exactly right, "Here ends another day, during which I've had eyes to see and ears to hear and the great world around me. With tomorrow comes another. Why am I allowed two?"
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't it stunning? Yeah. So there's that. And the other thing it changes is that it's a very different thing to live in a world which might be a kind of semi-accidental result of atoms banging against each other, or a world that you believe has been designed and therefore is drenched with meaning. And that meaning is meaning for ourselves, but, meaning on a big scale. So that changes the way I see things. And then possibly the one that I call on most often is that the story and the promises of God allow for hope where there is no logical reason for optimism. If the darkness has already played its strongest card in trying to kill God and didn't succeed, then the darkness is never going to win. And you asked about Desmond Tutu earlier. Well, again, there's that famous little prayer of his when he says, "Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness." And I can't remember the last line, "We will have victory through Christ our Lord." But just, yeah. Again, possibly that's not quite a direct answer to what you're saying, but...
There's no wrong answers here.
Excellent. Yeah, but that's certainly what came to mind when I thought about that question.
Yeah. You said before everything's a gift. Was that your words? Everything's a gift?
Yes.
And so
when the rough things come, yeah.
When the right... Well, I'm just wondering what you're saying about when it's the hard things.
Yeah.
Is it still a gift? And if so, let's break it down to your own life. Where is God for you in those moments of challenge?
Well, then that probably was a rash thing to say. I think we probably need to balance it out with the I hope it's the book of James, saying every good and perfect thing descends from the Father of lights. So I think it's probably more of a circle around those things being the gifts directly from God, every good and perfect thing. But when those things are warped, when human beings inject our own pride and our hunger for power into circumstances, then no, I would not say that was direct from God. I don't think you can have darkness and light. God is light, in whom there's no darkness at all. But I believe that light is stronger than darkness, and that the light can shine even in the darkness.
And have you encountered that personally in your own life, finding God in the darkness in the challenging times?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Very much so. Unfortunately, probably the ones that I could say I can't say on public radio.
Sure.
If that's right. Yeah. But I would certainly say on a daily basis, I'm dealing with the reality of my own shortcomings in this role, which is way too big for anyone, and certainly, in practice, too big for me. And if it was all on my shoulders, I would sink. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's all on my shoulders. And
that's very humble of you to admit that.
No, it's not.
Well,
not
it's
humble.
very honest.
Perfectly realistic.
Yes. So how do you find God in that, in the balance of, I'm the Bishop of Dunedin and this is a big responsibility and there's a lot of people looking to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope I've never pretended that I could do this in my own strength, or ever pretended that I would have the answers to everything, because you'd be pretty mad to do that. But I do believe that for some bizarre reason, God's called me to this.
Sure.
And I have been surrounded by amazing, gifted people with such a heart for God. So this is in no way, shape or form a one-person show here, at all. And I believe that in the end, this is God's church. I seem to be throwing lots of quotes at you, but a Catholic priest once told me that Pope John the 23rd, I always get the number wrong. Anyway, whichever the Pope was that drove Vatican I, apparently his prayer each night, the last thing he said each night was, "Hello, God, this is John. It's your church. I need to sleep. Amen."
Oh, that's a lovely prayer. We could all do with that, couldn't we?
We could all do with that, yeah.
So you've been in this role for a year as the Bishop of Dunedin. In what way has God surprised you?
I think I'm constantly pleasantly surprised by the varied ways that God speaks to people and touches people. I think the church has for generations now. We've worked very hard on different programs to ensure that we are reaching people and that we are being the body of Christ when we welcome people in. But they seem to have been, one program after another, and things haven't changed hugely. But what I'm finding across the diocese is that one person after another is just getting nudged by God to for some reason, brave coming in through a church door. And it's got nothing to do with anything we're doing, really.
Wow, so you're saying that they could have been people who had no faith and they've been nudged to come into one of the Anglican churches in your...
Yes.
Wow,
so
in Dunedin.
That's, not hordes, obviously, but that any do is amazing, really, because the church is, for many people, such a foreign place now. And it would take so much courage to step into this strange building surrounded by people who are doing strange things that you don't understand.
I find that when I visit a church I don't know, and I've been a Christian for decades, I still find it a little... So like you say, it's incredibly brave for people to walk in.
Incredibly brave, yeah. and just an incredible reminder that, we're here to work with God. God doesn't just give you a task and disappear and let you get on with it.
Yeah.
A remarkable number of people come to me to say that they're being nudged towards wanting to explore ordination. And some of them are highly surprised at becoming a vicar, becoming a priest, becoming a deacon, or just committing themselves more within their lay ministry. So yes, they come and see me, and often they are very surprised to find themselves there. And that's wonderful.
So just in closing, what would you say to somebody who's, because there's people who are going to be listening to this podcast who are from all walks of life. I've got a neighbour, as far as I'm concerned, he's not a Christian, and he actually listens into my podcast sometimes. What would you say to those people who are on a journey and perhaps they want to go through some church doors, but they're a bit afraid?
Well, obviously, I'd encourage them to give it a go.
Feel the fear and do it anyway?
Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. Or maybe start off by hunting up some Christian that they know. And it's always easier to go into a church if you've got company. So that would be probably a practical piece of advice. And I'd say start praying.
Yeah.
Don't know what to say, even if you're not entirely sure who you're praying to. It's a perfectly valid prayer to say, I have no idea if you're actually there, God, if you even exist, but if you are, this is what I'd like to say to you. And also to remember that those prayers don't have to be carefully designed and don't have to be sanitized, because
love that.
If God knows us, if God exists at all, God knows us completely anyway, so there's no point in pretending.
There's no point in pretending to be somebody you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'd say just start praying anyway and might be surprised.
You might just be surprised, because there's a God there, right, who's seeking and looking for you more than we're seeking and looking for him.
Absolutely.
Bishop Anne Gend, thank you so much for joining me today on Where Do You Find God?
Good, it's been lovely. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Tune in every Wednesday afternoon at 4:30 on Sanctuary, or listen and subscribe via your favourite podcast platform, and give us a review so others can find us.